So you know who James Altucher is?
Crazy hair guy.
Crazy hair guy.
Yep.
He looks like a super nerd, but I love his stuff. He was interviewing this guy. I think his name is Cal Fussman. I don't know.
Okay.
He's known to be a great interviewer.
You heard it on his podcast.
Yeah, I heard on his podcast.
Who's known to be a great interviewer?
This guy, no, Cal.
A great interviewee.
No, interviewer. Like he's great. He is great. He's known to asking great questions to people.
Great. Okay.
And so
Sure. All right.
We'll be to that story one day. And he was saying, you know, when he first started out, he got to interview Gorbachev. And so, you know, he's like, all you got is 10 minutes. 10 minutes to talk to him. And it was during the Cold War and all this stuff. And so it's like, every time Gorbachev would get somebody, it was always a question about nuclear, you know, disarming the nuclear warheads. And this guy, and so he goes in there and says, he asks him, so what is the greatest lesson you learned from your father? And he asked this very disarming question. And so he's saying, like, questions are able to unlock what's inside of people. And he did it. He's like, he gave classes on having conversations, and he's teaching a class, hey, you two interview each other. And so he said, let's modify some of the questions and let's see what happens. And so he used that question, you know, what's the greatest lesson you learned from your father? Another question he asked in the interview is, why is your best friend your best friend? He said it was just so powerful to see these, like he said, people in the classroom started crying thinking about these questions, these thought-provoking questions. And he said, we live in the world where we have access to all the answers. When you go to Google, like any question you have, you can look it up, but we don't, you know, it's very shallow. We don't really go deep into questions. And so it just really challenged me to be better. Like, for example, when I saw Reese Coffin, I was like, man, I wish I had thought of a good question to ask him. You know, like just shaking his hand, instead of saying, great job, enjoyed your presentation. It would have been nice to have like a really thought-provoking question.
Sure.
Because he says, you know, really it disarms people. And so people love, you know, interviewing him because he asks really good questions.
Yeah, and a lot of times what I find is after I meet someone interesting, it's after the fact that I think of a question that I wish I would have asked. I wish I'd have asked him this.
Yeah.
You know, I wish I would have asked him about that just to see what his. For example, with Reese Kaufman, when we were walking to, we had come out. It was before the breakfast had started. We had come out. We had kind of interacted with some people that he knew here locally. And then when we were walking to the back, as we were passing Lauren Daigle backstage, there were some kids backstage that were part of the program.
Yeah.
And Lauren Daigle was kind of cutting up with the kids and was skipping. Did I tell you about this? Mm-hmm. Okay. So Lauren Daigle is, you know, skipping around backstage, and she's young and full of energy and is interesting. And so she's skipping around, and I just made the quick joke to Reese. I said, Reese, is that how you warm up before you go on stage? Because that is what it looked like she was doing. It looked like she was trying to
just lighten up the mood,
wake up her body, lighten up the mood. You know, sometimes I think you can trick your own brain into, you know, like if you're in a tense situation and you force yourself to smile or relax or, you know, get the wiggles out or what, you know, kind of shake. That there are some things, the way you stand, there's ways that things that you can do to like trick your own body processes from going into a stress response. So I asked him, I said, is that what you do? Is that what you do to warm up? And he said, no, you won't see me skipping. He said maybe some push-ups from time to time. Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't think of it at the time, but Reese is an older man, has you know, achieved a lot in business as well as in the nonprofit world, and he's very physically fit.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I took him upstairs. We went on a long hike. And, I mean, I don't know how old he is. I guess I need to look that up. But I mean, he's an older man.
He's probably in his 70s.
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. And I'm not a good judge.
I would hate for it to look online. He's like 55.
I don't know. I don't know how old he is.
I mean, he seems like.
So I wish I would have asked him after the fact. I wish I would have asked him, Reese. You know, we get an opportunity to hear you talk about spiritual things. We get to hear an opportunity to talk about business things. what about personal fitness? Like, do you work out? What have you done? Like, what is your what is your eating and personal fitness like? Have you just been blessed with good genetics or have you been intentional about doing X, Y, or Z?
They probably said, "Have you heard of the CEO challenge?" But no,
Have you heard of the golden poop?
But I think you're getting what I'm saying is, I wish I would do a better job, and I'm working on doing a better job of like thinking of better questions to ask people in conversations. I meet people all day. I can do the very surface questions. But really, is there like thought-provoking questions you can throw out in a situation that people like are actually drawn to that, because you're actually asking questions that are more than just, "Hey, how was your day?" I mean, that question, what's the greatest lesson you learned from your father? I think it's pretty powerful, just alone right there.
So I did ask Reese a good question at a previous encounter that did unlock some different kinds of conversation this time. So at a previous encounter, I knew that he had a friend that had passed away that he was close to. His name was Buzz Baker. And I had never met Buzz Baker. I had just, it's like a legend. It's like you hear about this legend. And I knew he was some great, person that had significant spiritual significance to numerous people. I mean, I heard it from a number of different people, all different backgrounds. And so I asked Reese one day, just cold turkey, tell me about Buzz Baker. And he said, "Did you know Buzz?" I said, "No, sir. I never got to meet him, but I've heard a lot about him. I'd like you to tell me about him." And he rattled off several things that were very challenging, that gave me insight into their friendship. He said he was a great man of God. He was a great friend. He told me about what his role was in the ministry, and that when he came into the room, it was almost like the presence of God came with him into the room. He said, and then he told me his favorite psalm, I think, was Psalm 86. And if it's not 86, it might be 84, but it's whichever one includes the taste and see that the Lord is good. And I remember coming away from, and it was just this quick interaction, and Reese was on to the next thing. And I remember thinking, would my best friends know what my favorite passage of scripture is? And not only that, but like, this was years after Buzz Baker's death. And I mean, it was a top of mind. I mean, there was no prep. I didn't tell him I was going to ask him about Buzz Baker. It was top of mind. Well, so this year for Governor's Prayer Breakfast, when you walked up and Aaron walked up, I introduced y'all as hey, this guy is my Buzz Baker. Aaron. Yeah, DuPont.
Okay, I was like, Giannis wasn't there.
The other Aaron. I said, hey, I was like, Reese, this guy right here, this is my Buzz Baker. And he kind of laughed, and I can't remember if he said it with you or with Aaron, but he kind of he said, real quick, again, no hesitation. He said, "Do you pray for each other?" And in a very nice way.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like kind of challenging. He said, "Do you pray for each other?" I just kind of shrugged my shoulder. I guess in a general sense, and maybe sometimes we do, but if there's a specific request. And he said, "I would encourage you." He said, one thing that really strengthened Buzz and I's relationship was prayer. That at the end of every meeting, Buzz would say, "Well, what can I pray for you about?" And then he would pray for that thing. And then I would ask him, "What can I pray for you about?" And then he'd pray for that thing. He said, and over the years of us doing that, we really got to know each other's heart in a different way. And he said, so he kind of issued this friend challenge of, he said, I would encourage you to pray for each other.
So friend challenge and CEO challenge, we got to accept them.
Yeah, I think it's a healthy, both of them are healthy challenges.